Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Carrow Road. There's Carrow Road. Oh, there's the head of comms just walking through, looking very professional. There we go. Yeah, the Carrow Road. Ta-da! There it is. Now, I may not be masses here. This is going to be. I know I say this every time. This might be short and sharp because A, I don't think my voice is going to last very long, and B, I need to go home and lie down and go to bed, and also write some stuff. Which I'm looking forward to writing because I think it's going to be a good piece. So you'll be able to read that on the Athletic in the morning at some point. This was a scoreline at Carrow Road. Norwich have lost 3 successive games now in the Championship, something that shouldn't really be happening in terms of the quality of the players. This is something that most football managers have been saying as well. But football is not just about the quality of the players. And I don't necessarily believe Norwich City shouldn't have lost these 3 games. And also, I wrote that they may lose 3 games on the spin at the end of my last piece on the Athletic, clearly because a piece of me thought it was going to happen. There is a feeling around this place of momentum, downwards momentum, lost momentum. There are issues, and no one seems to be quite sure how to deal with it or arrest it. It's a bit like a tanker at the moment. If you try and turn a tanker, it takes a long time to move in the direction you want. I'm not even sure how hard some people are trying to turn the tanker. I don't know. I look at this place at the moment and there are so many massive questions I have in my head that I can't, that aren't really going to filter through until time passes. We'll have to see how things go. But there we go. They're all bigger things. Shorter term issues is obviously quite a big issue. Norwich were. It was interesting what Dean Smith was saying about control. Norwich had a degree of control in this game whilst not really moving out of first gear. But they were really bad in the final third. Really bad. Dean Smith said it was final ball, but it was just energy, inspiration, creativity, imagination, guile. It was everything. They were just really bad. Luton looked remarkably composed and in control themselves, actually, certainly of the situations. They played a 5-4-1. They were supposed to spring into a 3-4-3. They didn't get the chance to do that very often. I kind of wondered if they'd ever really twig the game was there for the taking, if they opted to be sort of a bit more cavalier. And maybe they were afraid that Norwich might open them up if they did. But Luton, I have to say, were excellent. I thought they worked really hard. They were very cohesive in what they were doing. I thought they were quite conservative, but also, they had one really good chance which they were able to take from a man I think is a brilliant human being, and I have a load of time for him as a footballer, having spoken to him on numerous occasions. It's not very often Norwich concede a goal and I smile at it, but it was just a brilliant moment for him. I know it was, and I know it would be, and he didn't celebrate, which I think says a lot about him, because that was obviously what it meant to him. And he's just one of the good guys. So when something happens to a good guy, whoever they are, you're just like, yeah, this is a guy who won the FA Youth Cup with Norwich, a guy who only really ever wanted to play first team football here at Norwich because that was his whole path from the age of 8. I spoke to Angus Gunn after the game, and he doesn't really want to talk about opposition players or goals conceded or things, but he said literally Carlton Morris is one of the players he's known for longest, one of the other footballers he's known longest in the game. The two of them should have both been in that FA Youth Cup winning team, but of course Angus ended up going off to Man City a few years earlier. But I just think, regardless of where Norwich are at, that's just a lovely story. And I think on a human level, I think that's brilliant for Carlton. That's a great moment for him tonight, and he's doing incredibly well in a really good Championship team. He's not the only one from that FA Youth Cup team either, by the way. So good on him, given it'll be 10 years since they won it in May. Brilliant. And he worked the goal really well, but my God, the defending was not great. Grant Hanley just gets stood up and no one and doesn't close him down enough. He sides foots quite comfortably inside the far post. I haven't really seen enough of the wider build-up, but that was clearly an issue. And the reality is Norwich were really bad up until that point in the final third and creating anything themselves. They missed one good chance at the start of the second half that Daniel Sinani screwed horribly wide. But they just, again, it's their own issues from just not being very good. I mean, they don't seem to be inspired, and the coach, the way they're being coached to score is looking like an issue. We're not really sure what they're trying to do at the moment. I think there are clearly issues with Josh Sargent playing in a wider role, because to me, looking at it after about 15 minutes, I would have changed it to the diamond-ish shape, because you don't lose anything in terms of your width, and you might as well have Sargent and Pookie running straight down the middle. It was already congested as it was, so I don't think that worked particularly. So yeah, all of that issues means that effectively Norwich can't really begrudge Luton for going ahead, because Norwich just did nothing proactively to put themselves in a better position. Josh Sargent got a contact injury, so he didn't appear for the second half anyway. Doesn't sound like that's too bad, but if I go through all the injuries now, Dimi Nunes came on in the second half, which was good news. So it's great to see him back. Isaac Hayden got a few minutes at the end. Kieran Dowell didn't make the 11 when he was in the 11, but he was short of breath, so they took him out of the 11, and Dean Smith seemed to say he was generally concerned, which is obviously a worry. Andrew Omobamidele is going to be out about 4 weeks. It might be longer. It's ligament damage, but he doesn't need surgery. Because at this stage, that almost does take us to the end of this first half of the season. Because I think we're only about 4 weeks away from the World Cup break, so he could be done now until the other side of the World Cup. In truth, looking at it, I'm going to miss another injury, aren't I? Yeah, Josh was only a contact injury. Sam Byron was just a bit tight, so didn't feature, and I think he was probably taken a bit out of the firing line. I hadn't really appreciated how he was quite to blame for the second goal at Watford as well. Yeah, and then obviously what we get is the fact that Kenny McLean is sent off 4 minutes after after Luton. I haven't been calling them Watford all night. After Luton took the lead, it was a Norwich corner. Gabriel Sara to the post in the build-up. And McLean and Tom Lockyer are tangling. They're all tangling in all sorts of penalties and free kicks all afternoon, evening. Loads of tangles. And this one, Kenny McLean swings an arm. That's what he does. He swings his arm. Now, if he maybe he swung his arm to push him off. Don't know. You can see the swing in the arm and go, well, he's just clocked him. Or you can see the swing in the arm and go, oh, he's tried to push him off because he's being held. There was so much holding going on. The referee didn't give it. Oliver Langford didn't give it all game. So you could say it would be a penalty, but he hadn't given it all game. So the bar was that it didn't matter. He got the card out really quickly. He'd obviously been watching it, and he was sure it was a red. Dean Smith is adamant they will look to appeal it, and he's obviously really annoyed at it all. Said he didn't want to talk about the officials, and then did a lot. But I don't think it would get overturned, because he's swung his arm, so he's instigated it, and it's not a clear and obvious error, I imagine. We'll see. There won't probably be enough camera angles either, but we'll see. But anyway, so I imagine he's now suspended for 3 games, which would, of course, be Sheffield United, Burnley, and then whatever the game is after that. Not even sure. Is it Stoke at home? I think it might be. Which actually now becomes a really big game. Alec Neil back at Carrow Road. Hilarious. Yeah. So yeah, Kenny. Yeah. I don't think that'll get overturned, but we'll see. And then actually Norwich were probably better with 10 men than 11, just in terms of energy and urgency. Don't know if they really created much more. Tamer did work a really good chance, but then missed the target. Just sort of the mood he's in, or the moment he's in. But there's so many players who aren't in particularly good form. I watch all of them, and they all seem to be struggling for confidence and form. The reaction in here was obviously horrible. Interesting, Dean Smith picked up on that and said he was a bit disappointed with the halftime booing, and for a game where he felt the team could go top of the league. But I think that's again just those wider issues. So there's no belief in here, and no one's trying to manufacture it. It's very weird. I don't like it, and I think some people need to look at themselves, if I'm honest about all that. I just sit here and report on it all. It's just my honest opinion. But yeah, it's a real shame. What was I saying? Yeah, so they sort of huffed and puffed, but yeah, I don't really think they ever really looked like getting back into it properly, I suppose. Luton were secure and did what they needed to. They were energetic and saw it out. And yeah, Norwich have got Sheffield United away on Saturday, which I imagine is probably quite close to the last place you'd want to go in this kind of a mood. And then Burnley on Tuesday, who are in very good form at the moment. So yeah, two really big challenges, and if Norwich aren't up for them, then it could be very difficult. I think I've covered everything off. I hope that you can hear me properly. I'm sorry about my croaky voice. Apologise for that. I don't need to cough, but I probably do need some lemon tea. Yes, and I'm going to go. So thank you all, everyone. I'm sure there's stuff I've forgotten, but yeah, there'll be a piece on The Athletic in the morning. And yeah, don't have nightmares. Enjoy the rest of your week. And I'll see you at Bramall Lane, all being well. I might see you on Wednesday night at the Norwich City Fan Social Club quiz, which I will be hosting. And other stuff. Sorry we didn't do a podcast on Monday. But I think an hour of listening to me go like this would probably be a bit too much. So we'll try and bring that back on Monday. But yeah. Difficult night, eh? Right. That's enough of that. I'll bring this back. And I shall bid you goodbye. Au revoir. Goodbye now. See you later. Cheers.